You shared your story of being sexually assaulted by your doctor, which obviously you and I, had shared years earlier with the world late in the campaign. It was late 2020, and that was such like a massive decision on your part. I think that's when really most people got to know you, and I was obviously a part of some of that process. But can you talk people through what that process was like for you and how you actually arrived at the decision to stand in front of the world or share your experiences with so many people?
I never imagined having the kind of platform that we did. And this had been a burden on me, just a secret that I had been carrying for many years, ever since I was pregnant with Christopher. And, being on the trail was a very, very empowering experience on many levels. First, there were so many women actually who were sharing their stories of harassment, of assault, with me in particular. And I remember thinking, wow, you guys are so brave. And I have my own story to share, but I was too scared, to do it. But I felt empowered by them, empowered by the love and support that came to us just from, the campaign. And I also felt this incredible obligation to use the platform that I had at that moment, and try to support other women and other survivors. So I do feel like it was the moment that enabled, my coming forward. It was rough, though. I remember wrestling with it for a long time. And I think, the week leading up to my CNN interview, I probably lost 10 pounds. But I'm so glad I did that. And I absolutely did not anticipate so many other women coming forward about the same doctor, right? Like dozens and dozens of women. I think he was practicing for over 20 years. Thinking about how many women he abused during the course of his career is just chilling. And to know that I helped that many other women come forward about something where, like me, they probably thought they were completely alone. Maybe it was something that they did. That's everything.
I do remember the days leading up to your interview, and I just wanted to be supportive. I just wanted to say whatever you want to do. Though I too saw the love and support you were getting on the trail even before you came out with the story about what happened with Dr. Haddon. And you were getting all these messages about different issues that women were facing. But after your interview, it was 10 or 20 times that, where everywhere we went, women would just come to you, sometimes in tears, talking about their own experiences. It was overwhelming, the support that you got, but also the level of pain and struggle that so many women faced. I mean, I was a witness to people coming to you so many times, and I was so proud of you, baby. I was somewhat overwhelmed too by the level of attention that your story received, rightfully so, but I felt like everyone saw that interview. I got text messages from dozens of our friends, and this actually hit me, and I'm sure you did too, where dozens of our friends texted me and said, "I'm so sorry, I never knew." And then it dawned on me. I was like, "Oh yeah, like now our friends would know that this had happened." And I thought, well, like I've known, and like I struggled with it for years, with like the anger and pain and guilt on my part. But then after you shared it, so many other people knew, and it touched so many people so profoundly that I feel like you couldn't help but feel like it was a tremendous thing to do, because I feel like you set a lot of people free. I feel like you liberated a lot of women.
Well, I certainly did so for other survivors of this doctor that I know, and I was kind of smiling when you said people coming up to us, because I remember very distinctly that after my interview, we would do events, and you would have your own selfie line, and then I would have my own, and it was beautiful, but also incredibly telling of how just many of us are walking around with this trauma, and a lot of tears and a lot of support for one another. That was something that I was not anticipating at all. I didn't know that coming forward or sharing a story myself would mean that other people would want to share with me to that level. And I actually feel so grateful for that experience, because it's even more, I think, healing for me to channel some of that trauma and be able to help other people deal with theirs.
Catharsis, I think, is the word. Like, it's cathartic.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what we need more of, right? And it's the reason why we encourage survivors to share their stories, because it's a burden off them, and it also helps other people because it just opens the door to more people sharing. I work with, RAIN. They're the largest anti-sexual assault network in the country, and they tell me, so they run a 24/7 hotline where you can talk to someone trained confidentially any time of day. And they say that after Me Too, all of the work that we've been doing over these past years, it's not that the calls decline. The calls just increase, because the more people come forward, the more other people want to come forward.
You referenced that a number of women came forward about Dr. Haddon. I know it was dozens of women. It was over 40. And that had a real impact on his treatment and that case. The federal government ended up investigating him as a result of all of these women coming forward. That must have been incredibly gratifying for you.
It was the first time I felt like what he did was actually taken seriously. And so I'm very, very grateful that he was actually arrested, and he's being investigated for abusing minors under his care.
Awful.
Yeah. And I think they called him at the press conference a predator in a white coat. And I had not heard him up until that time ever described that way. And it illustrated to me just how they finally understood his MO, right? That this was calculated. He would prey on pregnant women like me, who in my first pregnancy was very unaware of how these visits were supposed to go. And then also young women for their first visits. Now he's being described as maybe one of the most prolific predators in the state. And he was very, very close to getting away with it.
And he didn't, thanks to you and so many other women who came forward. I despise this man and his existence. And I know I speak for so many people when I say thank you, Evelyn. So now to something a little bit more current and positive. How did this book come about? I know that you were at least thinking about it, but then I think someone reached out to you.
I had this book in me pretty much as soon as I started talking about what happened with me with the doctor. It was because I was looking for a way to explain what happened to me, to our kids, and also protect them from something that I knew was quite prevalent. I did not realize the extent of it. It's 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before age 18. That's a lot.
That's astoundingly high, yes.
There are over 40 million Americans right now who have experienced sexual abuse. And it's not something we talk about, right? It's so taboo. It's so uncomfortable. from what I was seeing, there wasn't a consumer resource for this, like a book for parents or educators or families. I'm not a doctor or a clinician, and this book is not a clinical book. Usually the subject matter usually comes across in a more clinical way, which I had a hard time with. This book is written in the point of view of a survivor, me, and it's the book that I wanted to read to our kids.